Hi everyone, today we will be making a very cinematic movie title intro. As you can see, it is like a Batman inspired intro with smoke being incorporated inside the actual logo with the text moving in a very movie title way. And in order to do that, we're gonna create the smoke layers, add depth to the smoke layers, light it in a very specific way. Then we're gonna cut out the Batman logo out of the smoke, then add the text on top of that, animate the text, animate the camera, add some flares, do some very simple color correction, and the intro will be done. So let's get started. Here we have a project. I already named it Batman Intro Tutorial, so always make sure to save your project. And the first thing we're going to need to do is make a composition. So I'm going to make a new comp, 1920 by 1080, 148 frames at 24 frames per second, and I'm going to name it Smoke. So into this composition, I'm going to drop some footage. I have some smoke stock footage in 2K resolution. I'm going to drop it in here, and there we go. So then I will choose the smoke videos that start off from the black, so where you don't see the smoke in the screen already. But if you don't have that kind of footage, you can just animate the opacity from 0 to 100. That way it starts off from black, but I don't have that issue, so I can just throw these in. So I'm gonna need to get multiple ones. As you can see, this one has smoke already in the scene, so I'm not gonna take that one. And basically I'm gonna take all of this footage and I'm gonna throw it on here. Alright, looking great. So now if I go into the middle, we are gonna see if you're missing anything. So, and as I can see, one of these videos are on the bottom and there's too much stuff happening at the bottom. So I'm just gonna hit S for scale, uncheck the link, and in the second one, in the Y position, I'm gonna hit -100. That way we have the smoke going on top. And for this one, I'm just gonna rotate it 180 degrees. Perfect. So now if I scroll through the video, everything just kind of meets in the middle, which is exactly what I'm going for. So I'm gonna save the project, and I'm going to select all these layers, make them all 3D, and I'm going to select them all, go into material options, and turn on cast shadows. We are going to need that for when we place in the light, which is going to be now. So I'm going into layer, new, light, make sure that it casts shadows, the color is white and the intensity is 100, and I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to hit P and make it 960 by 540, and that basically centers it in the middle. And because it's very close to all of these layers, you can see some stripes here. So I'm just going to push this back. There we go, and you can kind of tell the difference when the light is on and when the light is off. And we're going to need to select all layers except for the light, switch the toggle, and choose hard light. That way we are going to get a more contrasted effect on the smoke. So now we are going to pre-compose it. So Command Alt to select it all, go to layer, pre-compose, and I'm going to call this smoke elements. Perfect. Now we're going to get a logo. I have a Batman logo saved on my desktop right here, flat logo. That is it. I'm going to throw it into my After Effects project, and I'm going to place it in my scene. I'm going to scale it down to the size where I think it looks nice. This looks good. And I'm going to select my smoke elements, and under track matte, I'm going to choose alpha matte. So now we have the smoke inside our Batman logo. So let's go ahead and toggle the switch, make the smoke elements 3D, and press the little gear icon so you can enable the individual 3D elements that we have in our smoke elements. Now we're gonna select all these, go to layer, pre-compose, and I'm gonna call it Batman logo smoke. So now we have that. Next thing we are going to need to do is make the text. So I'm going to choose my text tool, press it in the middle, and type in Batman. My letters are already spaced out, and you can do that by going into your character window and going into tracking, and you can just crank it up to 1000, which is what I have it set it at, and I'm just gonna make the text a little bigger. That looks nice, so I'm gonna keep it at 72. Then I'm going to go into my align window, which you can get to by going into window and align, and I'm just gonna place it perfectly in the middle. So that is looking good. Now in order to animate the text, we are going to go into effects and presets, and we're going to go into animation presets, text, and tracking, and you're going to choose decrease tracking, and you're going to place it on your text. So what that does is if you hit U, you're going to see all the keyframes for this layer, and basically what it does is it decreases the tracking and just brings the letters closer together, as you can see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit command on the keyframes so I can set them to not ease in and ease out, and I'm just going to place this keyframe in the front. I'm going to place this keyframe in the very back, and the reason for that is because I will be fading the text in and out, and here it's looking good. I like the way that it's spaced, and in here I'm just going to space it out more. So instead of 40, I'm going to make it negative 100, or actually 100. There we go, perfect. So at frame 40, I am going to go to T and select the opacity and go to frame 60. Keyframe it again, and actually I'm gonna push this keyframe to 30, and I'm gonna set the keyframe to 0, and then once again also at 140, or actually 148, which is the very end, I'm gonna hit the keyframe for opacity, make it 0, and then at 120 I am going to choose and make the opacity 100. So now if you just play it through, the text appears and it just keeps on tracking in, and then it disappears. So save the project, and what we are gonna go and do now is choose the Batman logo smoke, make it a 3D layer, and hit the gears once again. What you're gonna do after that is do the exact same thing for the Batman text. Now you're gonna need to make a new layer, new camera, and just hit OK. So now we have a camera, and what I'm also going to do is make a new null object, and I'm going to rename it by hitting enter, camera tracker. Now take this little wiggly tool and select camera tracker, and what it does is it's going to tell the camera what to do, and I'm going to make that layer 3D. Go to P for position, go to the very end, and I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit more. Also, we're gonna go into the Batman logo and make the Batman layer 3D as well, so that it follows the camera at the same time as well. So in the position, I'm just gonna choose when it's slightly smaller. I kind of like it like that, and I'm gonna hit keyframe, and then at the very beginning I'm just gonna go in the opposite direction. So I'm just gonna go and push it in. There we go. So now if you play it through, and what we are gonna do now is add a rotation. So I'm gonna hit R and keep the rotation off until frame 120. I'm gonna keyframe the Z rotation, and then I'm gonna go to frame 0 and make the rotation negative 15. Then I'm gonna right click on this keyframe, go to keyframe assistant, easy ease. Next thing we are going to do is make sure that our smoke enters and leaves. So at frame 20, I'm going to push the Batman logo in till it's here, and I'm going to keyframe the opacity. So at frame 25, I'm just going to keyframe it at 100, and here I'm just going to make it 0. So now if you just play it, it fades in very quickly. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing for the end, except this time I'm going to do it on the smoke layers. So at frame 130, I'm just going to right click on our Batman logo. Then I'm going to go into my smoke elements, and in here I'm just going to select all these, hit T, select the opacity, and then at frame 130 I'm going to make them 0. And for some of these keyframes I'm just going to offset them a little forward, and for some of these keyframes I'm just going to set them off a little back. There we go. So let's save our project, go into smoke, let's see how the very end looks. So as you can see, our smoke basically disappears. So I'm gonna need to move some of these keyframes a little closer, like this, just so they're all gone. And I can just offset some of these a little more. Yep, there we go. Perfect. So if you have all of our basic animation, now what we are going to do now is we are going to layer everything on so that we can get some nicer colors on this. So in order to do that, I'm gonna duplicate my Batman text, which is just by hitting Command D. And in here, I'm going to hit T for opacity, make it 50%. And I'm going to toggle the switch, change it to screen. Then I'm going to go into my effects and just type in fast and select fast blur. Apply it to this layer 2 times. So I'm just going to apply 2 of them. And for the first one, I'm going to choose just horizontal for the blur dimension. And for the second one, I'm going to keep them both. And I'm going to make, for the second one, 10. And for the first one, we are going to drag it to maybe 100. We're about to find out. So I'm going to make my quality a little better so I can see what is going on. There we go. So let's make it maybe like 50. I'm going to turn off the other fast blur currently, and I'm going to turn off the Batman smoke. So as you can see, this is giving you some interesting blurring here, and 10 just stretches it out a little more. So maybe I'll push it to like 130. No, that's a little too much. So maybe 100. 100 is looking good. So that is looking nice. We can enable our Batman logo now. And I might just increase the opacity a little more to like 80. And I'm gonna decrease the blurriness here to 80 as well. So that is looking good. Now we are going to need to do some post effects. So like in all of my tutorials, I always show that I have some anamorphic lines that I add, and you can do that by just going into Google and just typing anamorphic lines PNG or anamorphic crop PNG. So I'm just going to add these in here, and all you do is you just bring it in, and if it's a PNG on an empty background, you can just fit it to comp, because sometimes they're a little big, like 4K ones. And if I just empty the background, you can see it right here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna go to layer, new, solid, and make a black background so that when I'm doing color correction, it doesn't mess it up. So there we go. Here's what we have. Now we're going to go to layer, new, light, and we are gonna uncheck cast shadows because we don't need that. And I'm going to move this one to like the top over here. Oops. That's looking good. And then I'm going to duplicate this light, and I'm going to move it to the other side and bring it down. Now we are going to make our solid for flares, and I'm just going to call it flares. Change the blending mode to screen. Bring the anamorphic crop all the way to the top. And in flares, I'm going to go into Effect, Video Copilot, Optical Flares. We're going to choose in source type track lights. So now it's using these lights as the main option. And in options, I'm going to choose my light. And I'm just going to hit OK. And let's see how that looks. So that is looking nice. We are getting this cold look on our project. Next thing I'm going to do is some color correction. So layer, new, adjustment layer, and I'm going to rename it CC for color correction. And I usually use Magic Bullet Looks. It's really quick, and you can set it in many different ways. I never use any presets. I just straight up take the things that I need. And for this color correction, I'm gonna get some chromatic aberration. Then I'm going to throw a little mojo on there. Then in lens, I'm going to get lens distortion, and I'm also going to add a lens vignette. So let's turn off mojo for now because it's very powerful. And under lens distortion, I'm going to push the number into the negative, so that way I'm just pushing the corners out more. And that's just to mimic some lens effects. Then the lens vignette looks pretty good. I might just push it out a little more. There we go. Chromatic aberration, I'm just gonna move the red and cyan to somewhere where I like it. So this looks nice. So you're getting some red separation on the edges here and on the text. And under mojo, I'm gonna enable this, and I'm gonna go and push the balance somewhere under 50, so that I get like a warmer tone. That's looking pretty good, and because it is a very powerful coloring tool, the mojo, I'm just gonna push the intensity down a little, so it's not as strong. So I'm just gonna hit the check mark here, and that is looking nice. So next thing I'm gonna need to do is I kind of still don't like the flares, so I'm just gonna change them real quick to something a little warmer to match the rest of what we're doing. So I decided to change the preset to Russian, and let's see how that's gonna look. So that is looking nice. I'm just gonna need to turn down the intensity to maybe something like 20, so it's not very intense. Yes, there we go, maybe 25, just to push the limits of it a little. So there we go, that is looking very, very beautiful. So if I play it back at quarter speed, at quarter quality, you'll be able to see what's going on. And once again, I'm gonna need to keyframe the intensity of the lights, and I'm also gonna keyframe their position. So I'm gonna go to P and P, and I'm going to keyframe their position here, and at the very end I am going to bring them down. Beautiful. So I'm also going to push these out, and I'm also going to need to remember what number they're at for when they're pushed out. So they're going to be at 2039. So when I go to the first keyframe, I'm going to need to set that just so they go in a vertical line. And I'm going to need to do the same for this. So it was negative something. I'm just going to copy this and paste it in here. So now it's starting, and it appears, and the text comes in, and it's coming in closer. It looks good, and the flares are showing up. Add even more grain, and then the white somewhere to like 60% into the video. Everything is so that's very visible. Good. Maybe I'll change the logo. You can really read the text clearly. And it stays on screen smaller size for around 2 seconds, and because the text is very short, you know, it just says Batman. It's literally 6 letters. You can read it in like half a second, and the logo is recognizable, and then it goes away in a very nice organic way. So next thing we're gonna need to do is keyframe the lights, so at around 16 seconds you can actually see them. So I'm gonna hit T and T, keyframe these. For intensity, go all the way back and just hit 0, 0. And because the flare follows the intensity of the lights, you don't need to go into the flare options to do anything, and you're gonna do the same thing for the very end. So at like 130, I'm just gonna hit the keyframes, and then at the very end I can go to 0 and 0, and that's about it. So you basically just made a very nice cinematic title opener. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video interesting, and make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more visual effect and CG tutorials and other very interesting content. If you have any questions, be sure to comment down below. I am doing a new series where I give feedback to people's work. So if you want to be featured in this new series, make sure to comment down below with links to the video that you want me to review and give my critique and feedback on how you can improve in it. Once again, this is Studio X, and I hope you enjoy this video, and I'll see you in the next one.